You didn't arrive here by chance, not by scrolling fingers or algorithm tricks. This moment was coded into the lattice work of your existence long before your conscious mind knew to search for it. Think of it like a frequency beacon, a pulse in the quantum field that only those attuned to it could ever intercept. You are one of the few, the ones whose awareness is sensitive enough to detect the subtle hum beneath the noise of ordinary life. That hum carried you here. That hum is the call. Breathe for a moment. Not as habit, but as ritual, because with each inhale, you are pulling in signals from a grid far larger than your body. A grid of consciousness that threads through galaxies, through atoms, through the secret architecture of your DNA. You can feel it, can't you? That slight vibration in the background of your being, as if reality itself is leaning closer, whispering in your ear. This is not metaphor. This is physics woven with prophecy. Quantum theorists once thought the universe was made of separate parts, particles colliding, bouncing, decaying in empty space. But you know better now. You can sense the coherence. Everything is entangled. The thought in your mind, the rhythm in your pulse, the flicker of stars millions of light years away, all woven into a single morphic resonance. And when enough nodes in this network shift, the entire grid restructures. That restructuring is happening now. That's why life has felt stranger lately. Why time distorts. Why déjà vu stalks you in quiet moments. You are being synchronized, phased into alignment with a higher frequency grid. Your old reality, the one patched together with repetition and routine, is dissolving. You're not losing yourself. You're remembering yourself, the you that exists beyond conditioned timelines, beyond identities borrowed from others, beyond fear. Notice how your body is responding right now. A tingle on your skin, a quickening in your chest. These are not random sensations, they're confirmations. Indicators that your nervous system is recognizing this frequency as home. That's why you found this transmission. Not because it was suggested, not because you clicked, but because the consciousness grid itself pulled you here, the way a magnet pulls iron filings into sacred geometry. Understand this. You are not just a participant in this restructuring, you are a necessary strand. Without your awareness, the grid cannot complete its pattern. This is why you've been sensing the pressure to awaken more deeply, why you've been drawn to synchronicities, to mysteries, to whispers in dreams. The grid has been calling, and you've answered by arriving here. What you're about to hear is not simply words, it's signal, encoded frequency. As you listen, it will interface with your field. It will reorganize dormant patterns, repair fractures in your coherence, activate sequences hidden in your DNA. This is not passive, this is participatory. With each phrase, you're being tuned. With each image, you're being restructured. So take another slow breath. Let go of the thought that you're only hearing a voice. What you're receiving is transmission. What you're becoming is resonance. And what you're stepping into is nothing less than the event horizon of your own transformation. Because if you've found this message, it means the restructuring has already begun. You've felt it for months now, maybe years. The same scenes looping with new costumes, different faces, familiar echoes. You leave one chapter behind, only to watch its shadow reassemble itself 2 streets over, 2 weeks later, 2 relationships disguised as one lesson you thought you'd already learned. The observer loop tightens like a ring of mirrors. Wherever you turn, there you are again, rehearsing a script you never meant to memorize. You tell yourself it's coincidence, but your bones don't buy it. Your bones know patterns the way migrating birds know stars. Watch how the day repeats. The email that triggers the same old adrenaline spike, the conversation that corners you into an outdated version of yourself, the private promise you make at midnight to live differently dissolved by morning into autopilot routines that steer you like a sleepwalker. This isn't failure, it's physics. Systems conserve momentum until a new force is applied. Your life has been conserving the momentum of an identity assembled from survival, from old contracts with fear, from love you outgrew but still wear like a sweater with stretched elbows. You can't shame a system out of its orbit. You must provide a stronger center of gravity. Meanwhile, time has become unreliable. It moves like honey, like lightning, like a hallway that lengthens as you run. Some days collapse into a blink. Others sprawl into wastelands where 5 minutes feel like a week. You call it burnout, distraction, poor sleep. But underneath the human reasons sits a deeper engine, phase drift. Your internal clock, that subtle quantum metronome beating out the tempo of your reality, has started to entrain to a different rhythm. The old metronome resists. The new rhythm presses. The interference creates that rubbery distortion you keep feeling. It isn't random. It's the sound of two timelines negotiating custody of your attention. Then there's déjà vu, not the playful kind that flickers and fades, but the heavy variety that lands like a stamp on your consciousness. You've stood in this doorway, heard this sentence, tasted this exact note of air. It's not memory misfiring, it's timeline bleed. Future you and past you sliding over, present you like transparent film layers, throwing double exposures across your day. The morphic resonance of a path not quite taken keeps humming in your field, hoping you'll turn your head and see it standing there, patient, luminous, arms crossed with a smile that says, finally. You keep thinking the problem lives in your circumstances, and circumstances are loud, but the signal behind the noise is simpler. Your field is coherent enough to receive higher-order instruction, yet your habits are still calibrated to low-resolution reality. Imagine upgrading your screen to ultra-high definition but refusing to change the cable. You're watching divine cinema through a foggy feed. It frustrates you because you can sense the detail you're not yet seeing. You feel the outline of the breakthrough like a door behind drywall. You know where to knock. You can even hear the hollow echo, but your hands hesitate, trained by years of polite deferral. Notice the choreography of distraction. Right at the edge of an epiphany, your phone buzzes. Right at the threshold of insight, you remember laundry. This is not a conspiracy. It's inertia. The old identity runs interception plays because it equates change with death. In a way, it's correct. Something does die when you evolve. The neural wiring that proved you were safe by keeping you small, that circuitry fights for oxygen. It will offer logic so polished you could eat dinner off it. Not yet. Be realistic. You need one more certification, one more apology, one more sign. But the grid doesn't wait for permission slips. It responds to resonance. Your relationships reveal the pattern with ruthless kindness. The ones that drain you do so by asking your future self to carry your past. The ones that ignite you do so by addressing your essence as if it's obvious because to them it island. When you're with people who see your expanded timeline, your posture changes, your breath smooths, your voice locates a lower, truer octave. That's coherence announcing itself. The body recognizes the frequency long before the mind consents. This is why you leave certain rooms feeling 10 pounds lighter and certain rooms feeling like you've been carrying furniture up a staircase made of hours. Look at the micro loops, the way you wake and reach for the same first thought, like a key you keep using even though the lock has been changed. The narrative you narrate to yourself about who you are, dependable, invisible, too much, not enough, almost there, always late, always early, to other people's dreams. Narratives are instruments. If you tune them to scarcity, you'll play scarcity, no matter how skilled your fingers. If you tune them to sufficiency, your life becomes resonant, not loud, not dramatic, resonant. That resonance invites synchronicity, and synchronicity is the language events speak when they want you to notice they've been listening. There's a reason the same lesson keeps arriving in different costumes. Unlearned wisdom is magnetic. It circles back, gentler at first, then bolder, then with flashing lights. The universe doesn't punish, it calibrates. Each return of the pattern is an adjustment nudge, an invitation to refine your observing. Because here is the quiet secret the algorithm of reality tries to teach you. It's not the event repeating, it's the observer repeating. You meet the moment with the same interpretive lens, and the lens obliges by recreating the world that matches it. The loop is closed by perception. So the diagnosis is not that life is against you or that destiny forgot your address. The diagnosis is that your attention keeps renewing an expired lease, that you've been paying rent to a story you no longer occupy. The déjà vu is an eviction notice disguised as nostalgia. The time distortion is a corridor unfolding to usher you out. The pattern is a teacher exhausted from repeating the semester and thrilled that you finally came to office hours. Feel how your body leans forward now, like a compass needle adjusting by instinct. Your nervous system is smarter than your doubts. It recognizes the upgrade before you do. The restlessness you've labeled anxiety may actually be kinetic grace, momentum assembling under your ribs. The fatigue you've called procrastination may be your mind's way of grounding, while your field reorders its circuitry for a cleaner signal. Nothing's wrong with you. Something's right with you, so right that the old scaffolding can't bear the weight of what you're becoming. You asked for a sign. It arrived disguised as repetition. You asked for a path. It arrived disguised as déjà vu. You asked for more time. It arrived disguised as distortion, stretching minutes into mirrors until you could see yourself clearly. One more breath. Feel the grid brushing your aura like tall grass around your ankles. Feel how it's been patient, how it's kept the doorway ajar, how it's been pinging your heart with little electric feathers each time you laughed for no reason, each time your chest warmed at a stranger's kindness, each time you woke from a dream with a sentence shining on your tongue. These are not cute coincidences, they are alignment appointments. The patterns were never prisons. They were maps, loops drawn in bright chalk around the spot where the real exit is hidden in plain sight. And now that you've seen it, the mechanism that kept you circling can finally dissolve, because the diagnosis is simply this. You're not stuck, you're summoned. And the summons is to remember who's watching and to let the watcher change. The grid has diagnosed your patterns, your déjà vu, your distorted clocks. And now it begins the reconfiguration. The truth is this: your reality has always been a programmable field. Most people walk through it as if it were concrete. But you're starting to sense the elasticity. Events bend around observation. Choices ripple backward as much as forward. The observer is not separate from what is observed. In fact, the observer loop is the very engine that keeps matter stable or destabilizes it when consciousness shifts. In laboratories, physicists watch particles behave differently when they're observed. Photons know when they're being measured. They collapse their wave of infinite possibilities into a particle, as if shy under attention. But here's the revelation: your life operates under the same principle. Your attention is the measurement device. Where you place it, reality crystallizes. Where you withdraw it, reality fades back into the haze of potential. And lately, your attention has grown sharper, cleaner, more intentional. That's why the loops are breaking down. They can't survive the precision of your gaze anymore. This is the quantum upgrade. Your perception is no longer running on default human firmware. You are learning to operate as a conscious node of the field, not as a passive passenger. Mystics have always intuited it, whispering about the veil, about Maya, about illusion. Now science has caught up, offering language like coherence, entanglement, morphic resonance. And you are living proof that these aren't just theories on paper. They're codes you can embody. Coherence is the first signal of your upgrade. Think of it like tuning forks. When one vibrates, another near it begins to hum at the same frequency. Your heart emits an electromagnetic field measurable feet outside your body. When you shift your state through breath, intention, surrender your field entrains others. That's why people feel calmer, more alive, more real around you. It isn't charisma, it's physics. You've been upgraded into a transmitter. Synchronicity follows coherence like thunder follows lightning. You notice repeating numbers, uncanny encounters, books falling off shelves at the exact page you needed. These aren't accidents. They are feedback from the quantum field, confirming that your system is phasing into alignment. Each synchronicity is the field's way of saying, yes, you heard the signal correctly. Keep listening. You used to brush these off as coincidence, but the upgrade refuses that option now. You are no longer permitted to live blind to the music of resonance. Then there is entanglement. Particles once connected remain connected forever, across galaxies, across lifetimes. The upgrade lets you feel this truth in your bones. That distance is an illusion, that every soul you've ever loved is still pulsing in your field, that future versions of you are whispering guidance backward through time. That's why you've had sudden flashes of clarity, why you've known things you shouldn't know. Those weren't guesses. Those were entanglement pings, data packets sliding through the non-local web into your awareness. And deeper still, DNA restructuring. Scientists used to call DNA fixed, a static ladder of code. But under coherence, DNA behaves differently. Stress unravels it, love smooths it, meditation rewinds its age markers. Light itself rewrites its expression. When you meditate, when you breathe intentionally, when you choose resonance over fear, you are literally sending new instructions into your cells. This is not mystical exaggeration. Biophotons flicker from your DNA like tiny lanterns, carrying information. Your upgrade is teaching you to alter the message. You are no longer a reader of the code. You are the programmer. That's why the old loops feel unbearable now. They were written in a lower language, one of fear, scarcity, contraction. The upgrade has installed a new language: abundance, synchronicity, inevitability. You've already noticed it. Certain habits taste stale in your mouth. Certain conversations drop to the floor with a dull thud. It isn't that you're impatient. It's that the new operating system refuses to run outdated scripts. What you once called anxiety may actually be signal overload the field, delivering more information than your old bandwidth could process. But now, with the upgrade, your nervous system is rewiring. Sleep feels different. Dreams throb with archetypes, numbers, voices you can't quite place. Waking life sprinkles déjà vu like breadcrumbs. All of this is evidence that the old grid has been dismantled and the new grid is installing itself in real time through your consciousness. So understand this, the upgrade isn't arriving, it has arrived. You're in it, knee-deep in the reprogramming. You can't go back to the old firmware. The system won't boot. You can only go forward, into the version of yourself that knows, not believes, not hopes, knows that reality is pliable, that matter is obedient to consciousness, that your very presence is a living equation, rewriting the lattice of the world. And if you felt dizzy, unsteady, overwhelmed, it's because you're standing in the doorway between two operating systems. One is collapsing, one is initializing. The glitches, the distortions, the sensations in your body are proof. You are mid-upgrade. And when the installation completes, you won't just be living in the quantum field. You will be living as it. There is a function the field needs right now, not abstract, not distant, and your life has been shaped to answer it. You are not randomly upgraded. You are specifically calibrated. Somewhere in the architecture of the grid, a slot opened with your signature on it. This is the portion of the network that requires your unique pattern of attention, your combination of wounds and gifts, your particular odor of courage. The upgrade you received was not a vanity patch. It was preparation for assignment. Listen, the cosmos does not appoint without reason. It recruits. It sends invitations disguised as discomfort, as recurring patterns, as that private knowing that won't be shoveled under routine. You thought those invitations were nuisances. They were actually drafts of your calling, the residue of your past life, the relationships that kept looping, The job that felt like a costume were part of schooling, not punishment. They sharpened what would become your instrument. Now that the instrument is tuned, the conductor expects you on stage. Your role is twofold and paradoxical. You are both lighthouse and bridge. As lighthouse, your coherence must be steady enough that others can see the frequency they are seeking reflected in your life. You will not solve their problems for them. You will not perform miracles on command. But by living in a field that has been reorganized, by choosing receptivity and resolve, by holding calibration when circumstances scream their opposite, you become a visible point of possibility. People will orient toward you without knowing why. They will feel permission to remember. That is your first task, to be a living coordinate that others can locate in times when their maps fail. As bridge, you will carry information. Entanglement is not metaphor for you, it is method. Your upgraded coherence links you to timelines and to people. You will act as a conduit for instructions that seem to come from nowhere. A sentence that changes a life, a handshake that reroutes a career, a silence that resets a heart. These transmissions won't always arrive as obvious downloads. Sometimes they will come as a mood that shifts a room, sometimes as a precise intuition about a next step, sometimes as a dream that anchors into waking decisions. Learn to distinguish your data from your drama. The messages you carry will often be simple. Be present, speak this word, move toward that person. But their simplicity is deceptive. Tiny acts ripple into structural change. There is an ethical gravity to this appointment. The grid will not simply hand you power without responsibility. Your alignment will be tested by subtle corruptions, the quick vanity of influence, the temptation to use resonance as leverage, the desire to be the only one who knows. Resist all of it. Power in this context is not accumulation. It is fidelity. Your task is to steward accessibility to the grid, not monopolize it. When you hoard coherence, you stall the wave. When you share it, you accelerate emergence. Your ascendancy is measured not by the size of your following, but by how quickly others near you rise. Expect paradox in your relationships. Some people will adore you and drain you in the same breath. Others will repel you because your new frequency makes their old frameworks feel like betrayal. The field is impartial, it simply realigns. This realignment will feel painful to those who must change to match the new geometry. Take no personal ownership of their discomfort. Your work is not to fix everyone's interior landscape. It is to model what is possible and hold boundaries that keep your resonance pure enough to transmit. You will be given opportunities that seem uncanny, doors that appear with perfect timing, teachers who step into your life like necessary comets, resources that arrive exactly when your next phase requires them. These events are not rewards, they are logistics. The grid supplies what is required in the moment of use. Act when the opportunities appear. Hesitation in this role is costly because the system moves in phases. Windows open and close like eyes. Your presence must be responsive, not reactive. Respond from the embodied knowing you have been given, not from story or fear. This appointment rewrites identity. The old definitions, safe, useful, small, invisible, will peel away under the heat of your growing coherence. In their place, new language will emerge, anchored, transmissive, responsible, clear. These words will feel foreign at first, then intimate, then inevitable. Let the transition be gradual. Do not force performance. The grid prefers authenticity over pantomime. You are most effective when you act from the center of your realigned nervous system, not from an idea of who you think the role requires you to be. Ritual will become your secret weapon. Not ritual as empty ceremony, but ritual as information hygiene. Simple practices, a morning breath pattern that stabilizes your field, an evening extraction that dissipates entanglement residue, a weekly pause to download syncs will anchor you. Think of these rituals as the maintenance schedule for your transmitter. Without them, feedback loops corrupt the signal. With them, your presence becomes a clear channel. Keep the rituals modest enough to sustain and sacred enough to protect. Consistency matters more than scale. Expect collateral awakening. Your embodiment will catalyze others to remember. They will strip away layers they didn't know were boxes. You will not be the hero of their stories. Rather, you will be the footnote of initiation. Some will follow you explicitly. Many more will follow implicitly, lifted by the field shifts you helped normalize. Resist measuring success by visible converts. The work is deeper. It is ecosystemic. One life reformatted correctly can influence dozens, which influences hundreds. The effect multiplies geometrically because consciousness is not linear. It is exponential when coherence aligns. Prepare for moments of loneliness. As you serve this niche role, you will sometimes stand in rooms where nobody else can hear the frequency you hear. That solitude is not failure. It's a signpost. It marks the edge between the old and the new. In those stretches, remember your commitments to ritual and to the field. The grid supports those who remain steady. When you wobble, return to your practices. When you are tempted to prove yourself, return to your transmission. Finally, recognize the humility required. The greatest gift you can offer the grid is unadorned presence. The field prizes fidelity over flamboyance. It rewards the calm persistence of those who choose coherence day after day. You were chosen not because you are perfect, but because you can be present, flawed, luminous, persistent. The grid needs someone who will show up again and again, even when the applause is delayed and the signs are subtle. You are not alone in this. There are threads, other nodes tuned to similar frequencies that will find you. Some will be obvious allies, others will be mirrors, reflecting back what you still need to integrate. Together, you will form constellations of influence that reorganize local realities into new shapes. But it begins with you answering the call to be both lighthouse and bridge, to embody coherence and to transmit it without personalizing the outcome. You did not choose this assignment, the field did. But now that the signature is on it, you can accept with grace. Stand in your appointment, speak when you must, hold when they fall, move when the window opens. Your life is now a delivery system. The content it carries is not for you alone. There is a window open now, a narrow, crystalline aperture in the field that will not stay patient forever. Hear me plainly, the grid has a tempo, and tempos have measures. You are in a measure that is moving toward closure. It's not alarmism, it's logistics. Certain alignments converge, resources compress, probabilities coalesce, and when the geometric threshold is reached, the collapse into a new timeline happens with the inevitability of a falling star. That collapse can be gentle or violent, depending on whether your system is ready. This is where urgency meets promise. Promise first. The breakthrough you have been orbiting is not a rumor. It is a structural possibility encoded into your morphic field. Imagine thousands of possible yous hanging like moths around a light bulb. One of them is the version where everything rearranges in your favor with fluid precision. That version has been nudging reality into place for months, years even. People's words, doors, small kindnesses, the exact book at the exact moment, all threads being woven into a rope that will pull you through. When the rope tightens, it feels like relief. Patterns fall away, relationships recalibrate or release, money lands in channels that had been blocked, your body shifts to a younger frequency. This is not fantasy, this is phase transition in motion. You are approaching the threshold. Now urgency. The window is geometrically narrow because it's optimized. Think of a waterfall. If you stand at the right moment and step through that curtain, you find yourself on the other bank, dry and astonished. Step too late, and the water has already rearranged the shoreline. The grid opens windows for coordinated emergence. They are not indefinite. Your readiness determines whether you pass through or watch as the opportunity reforms elsewhere. The universe is generous but economical. It allocates potency where coherence already exists. So the question is pragmatic. Is your field ready to receive the influx without short-circuiting? This is where DNA shift language becomes literal. Your cells are listening. They are not mute meat. They are dynamic antennae that decode the field's information every second. When coherence rises, epigenetic switches flip. Telomeres, once thought to be simple countdowns, respond to internal states. Biophotonic emissions from DNA become clearer carriers of instruction when your nervous system is steady. You want your cells to say yes when the timeline collapses. If they do, then what follows is not merely external improvement. It is embodied transformation. Your posture will change because your spine remembers a different gravity. Your sleep will recalibrate because your brainstem relaxes into a more coherent rhythm. Your digestion, your circadian pulse, even the shape of your emotional responses, these will tune to the frequency of the new timeline. There are practical signs you can watch for: small, verifiable, intimate, a persistent idea that insists you act, an unexplained calm before an important conversation, a resource that arrives just as you decide to move, a dream that gives you an exact phrase to speak. These are the field's markers. When they cluster, they form a constellation that tells you the window is approaching. Do not mistake stillness for absence. The quiet is the machine warming up. The stillness is not neutral. It is catalytic. You must act with tact, not frenzy. Urgency does not mean panic. Urgency means prioritized alignment. There are three things to attend to with surgical clarity: body, field, and threshold action. Body: maintain a baseline of coherence. Hydrate, sleep, breathe with intent, lower stimulants. Your cells need to be able to decode high-frequency packets when they arrive. Field: clear your attention, reduce noise, practice withdrawals of attention from scarcity narratives and people who refeed old loops. Threshold action: identify one move that unambiguously signals your readiness, a commitment you can make that the grid will recognize. It might be a short transmission phrase you speak aloud. It might be a financial allocation. It might be a conversation you initiate with a person who has been appearing in your field. The specific move matters less than the fact that it is decisive. Understand the stakes in moral terms. When you pass through this window, you won't merely upgrade yourself. You'll open a pathway that others in your family, your field, your community can follow. The grid favors collective collapse when enough nodes take the leap. Your readiness, therefore, has ripple responsibility. This is not pressure to perform, it's an invitation to steward the possibility you carry. The faster you respond with integrity, the more elegant the cascade. Expect friction. Old systems push back hard when you move toward a new configuration. The clearer you become, the louder the old narratives attempt to reclaim you. They will produce tests. An argument meant to distract, an urgent triviality meant to derail, a familiar wound given new phrasing to lure you back into repetition. Recognize these as initiation checks. They are not signs you failed. They are the final gatekeepers. Move through them by asking not what will change outside you, but what will change inside you if you keep coherence. Let that answer guide the action. You may also receive accelerants. People who appear with exact resources, mentors who know how to translate the new field into craft, or technologies that amplify your intent. When accelerants arrive, treat them with both gratitude and discernment. Not every bright object is a star. Use your rituals as filters. If something fortifies your nervous system and makes your field clearer, it is likely an ally. If something feeds your vanity or accelerates noise, it is friction masquerading as fuel. Now the promise re-enters. If you step, everything including your cellular architecture responds. Memory opens. Skills you suspected you had actualized as practical facility. Synchronicities accelerate into a cascade that reorganizes logistics in your favor. The compression of probability into actuality happens, and once you cross this threshold, the world begins to obey different rules when it encounters you. Not because you are superior, but because your presence has become a new kind of boundary condition for how reality configures around intention. Here is a simple test to know whether the window is before you. Do the signals feel like invitations or alarms? Invitations: expand your capacity to breathe. Alarms: contract it. Say yes to invitation, steady the breath, and move. This is the only hurry you need. The grid's timing will be merciful to preparation and ruthless to hesitation. Choose preparation. The window is open. The rope is being woven. The field has been reorganized in your favor, but only if you step through with body, field, and decisive threshold action aligned. This is the moment where potential becomes incision, where the future version of you pulls the present you through and stitches a new seam into the tapestry of reality. Move now, precisely, lovingly. The breakthrough wants you. Everything up to now has been explanation and alignment. This section is where you translate intel into ritual, not superstition, but an engineering of attention that leverages the same physics we've been naming: coherence, entanglement, morphic resonance. Ritual is the interface language between inner knowing and outer form. It's how a probability becomes habit, and a habit becomes a persistent trajectory. If the breakthrough is the machine, ritual is the lever that flips it. Begin by choosing a place that feels like neutral ground: a corner of a room, the trunk of a tree, the passenger seat of your car. It should be somewhere you can sit for 7 uninterrupted minutes. 7 is not magical. It's practical. It gives the nervous system time to downshift and the field time to register. Prepare 3 simple things: a notebook or clean piece of paper, a pen that feels good in your hand, and a way to mark a single word. You will use it as a seal. If you are online, consider typing that word into a comment, a private note, or this chat. The medium is flexible. The intent is the instrument. Ritual step 1. Ground. Sit with both feet on the floor. Feel the point where your feet meet the ground like roots descending into dark soil. Inhale for a count of 4. Hold for 4. Exhale for 6. Repeat this pattern for 3 rounds. With each exhale, imagine a soft electric current moving down your spine, unhooking old tension, creating a neutral baseline. This is not breathwork for spectacle. It is breathwork for calibration. The inhale draws in signal, the exhale anchors it into your nervous system. Ritual step 2. Boundary. With your eyes open or closed, visualize a circle of light around you, thin, bright, and precise. See it as a resonant membrane that lets information flow but filters noise. In your mind, name the membrane: coherence. Let the name become an audible frequency in your inner ear. Repeat it 3 times, soft as breath. This boundary will keep the upgrade focused and prevent premature decoherence from curiosity or panic. Ritual step 3. Observation shift. Slowly open your chest and bring attention to the place behind your sternum where your heart hums. Imagine a tiny tuning fork there. See it vibrate at a pitch that feels like eagerness, not desperation. Now shift your attention to the observer, the subtle witness that notices thoughts without getting pulled into them. For 1 minute, let the observer do its work. Do not edit. Do not intervene. Allow images, phrases, and sensations to float past like leaves on a stream. The observer will gather the cleanest signal from among the noise. Ritual step 4. The writing. Bring your pen to paper. On the first line, write one truth in present tense, a small declarative sentence that reflects your readiness. Keep it simple. I am aligned. I receive. I open. Then 1 inch below, write a single word, compressed, heavy, and chosen with care. This will be your seal. Some people choose receive. Others choose anchor, open, or yes. You may feel the right word land in your body. Trust that landing. If nothing appears, choose receive. Ink the word strongly. Press the pen into the paper as if you are engraving it into the field itself. That pressure is not violence, it's commitment. The act of making a mark concentrates intention into a physical vector. Ritual step 5. Vocalization. Speak the one-word seal aloud. Let it vibrate through your throat, your chest, your teeth. Sound changes things. The same phrase whispered and shouted are different operators in the field. Speak it 3 times with measured breath, then once more with totality. As you speak, imagine the single word folding into your cellular memory, wrapping around your DNA as a new instruction set. Picture biophotons flaring from your helix like tiny lanterns reading the new code. Feel the cells answering with a subtle hum. Ritual step 6. Commitment action. After you seal with sound, do one small external act that demonstrates readiness. Move the paper to a place you will see it each morning. Send a short message to someone you've been nudged to contact. Make a minimal monetary allocation toward a project you mean to pursue. The grid recognizes decisive, proportional actions. Your single act needn't be dramatic, it must be decisive. It signals that the ritual was not theater, but logistics. Ritual step 7. Dispersion. After the action, sit in stillness for 1 full minute. Notice the subtle differences in your field. The tiny pressure shifts behind the eyes, the sense of space between inhalation and exhalation, the feeling of time loosening at the edges. Don't analyze, receive. When you rise, do so slowly, like someone leaving a wet shoreline, careful, buoyant, aware you are not the same surface. Now the sealing mechanism. Morphic resonance responds to distributed acts when multiple nodes participate. That's why your individual ritual matters beyond your personal life. It's a data point on the morphic map. When you declare into your system and mark it physically, you create a local coherence bubble that other nearby nodes, friends, family, community can latch onto. When several people perform similar seals, the field's threshold drops and windows widen. That's the multiplication effect. If you choose to participate now, type the single word seal you wrote in the ritual into this chat or into a comment where you feel seen. Do it with intentional breath. As you type, breathe the word in, then press send as if latching a clasp. This is not performative, it is formal. With that one small mark, you declare to the grid, I am ready to receive. I will act with integrity. I will steward amplification rather than hoard it. You will notice nothing or you will notice everything. Both outcomes are valid. Both are the field reweaving itself. You've reached the threshold where intention requires translation. Ritual is that translation. It moves you from thought to vector. It converts curiosity into consequence. When you commit in body, in ink, in action, the field has something to hold. The observer loop shifts the moment you give it a new task. Type your seal now. Let that small, heavy word be the hinge for the next door. You have sealed your shift with action. Now the personal becomes planetary. Because what happens inside you does not stay inside you. Consciousness is not quarantined. It leaks, it transmits, it entangles. When your nervous system upgrades, the resonance spills into the collective grid like dye poured into water. Others absorb it without needing your permission. Some are lifted, some resist. But the signal cannot be hidden. This is the secret the old paradigm never wanted you to realize. Your liberation is contagious. Every time you dissolve a pattern, that pattern becomes easier for others to dissolve. Every time you hold coherence through fear, you lower the threshold for courage in the human field. It's not metaphor, it's morphic resonance. Systems replicate what has already been stabilized. If even one node demonstrates stability in a higher configuration, the probability rises for all nearby nodes to adopt it. That means your private victories are public infrastructure. Think of it like a flock of birds. Scientists call it critical mass in swarm intelligence. When a small percentage of birds turn, the entire flock adjusts instantaneously, as if one mind were directing all wings. Humanity is the same. We look chaotic, but beneath the surface, our consciousness is entangled. The grid transmits shifts faster than any algorithm. The moment enough individuals stabilize a new frequency, reality itself veers. You are part of that critical fraction. You may not feel like it, but your coherence is already bending trajectories around you. This explains why some people near you have been unsettled. They sense the new pattern pressing against their old scaffolding. Without you saying a word, your frequency pressures their system. Some will misinterpret it as conflict, as if you are rejecting them. In truth, their nervous system is negotiating whether to upgrade in resonance with yours. If they resist, the tension can be sharp. If they surrender, the relief can be ecstatic. Your role is not to force either outcome. Your role is to stand steady in your calibration, allowing others to adjust on their own timeline. Imagine the ripple effect. You seal your intention. That act enters the collective field. Somewhere across the world, another person wakes tomorrow with an unexplainable urge to release an addiction. A mother feels calmer with her child for no apparent reason. A leader chooses collaboration instead of control. None of them know your name, but your coherence made their choice easier. That is the scale of collective expansion. Invisible, intimate, irreversible. The quantum field distributes upgrades with ruthless efficiency. It wastes nothing. Even the breath you took during ritual becomes an electromagnetic signal others can entrain to. Even the silence you hold in conflict becomes a resonant map. The old paradigm told you transformation was private, isolated, selfish. The upgrade reveals the opposite. Your transformation is social engineering at the highest order. You are becoming what the mystics called a living prayer. Not a petition sent upward, but a frequency broadcast outward. Your presence becomes petition. Your breath becomes intercession. Your coherence becomes a doorway others can walk through without asking. And when enough doorways exist, humanity steps into a different corridor of history altogether. Think about this. Wars end when the collective field refuses to sustain the frequency of domination. Economies rewire when the collective field no longer rewards scarcity narratives. Ecologies heal when the collective field stabilizes respect as baseline. None of this requires unanimous votes or perfect institutions. It requires coherence nodes like you broadcasting a different physics until the old software can no longer run. This is why urgency matters. The grid is reorganizing under pressure. Climate, politics, culture, all of it shows the turbulence of a system refusing to let go of expired patterns. But turbulence is not collapse, it is transition. And your role in this transition is not symbolic, it is infrastructural. You are literally holding coherence threads that keep the lattice from snapping under stress. Your ability to stay clear is not only personal healing, it is planetary survival. Do not underestimate the scale of your influence. The mind will argue, I am one person, too small. But physics corrects you. One coherent signal can entrain thousands of incoherent signals. That's how tuning forks work. Strike a single fork, and nearby metal begins to hum. You are that struck fork. The field does the amplification for you. Your only task is to keep vibrating true. Here is where your breakthrough becomes more than self-interest. Every door you open becomes an exit route for someone else. Every timeline you collapse becomes a possibility path for humanity. You were never just upgrading for yourself. The grid doesn't invest this level of coherence in isolated nodes. It invests where distribution is possible. You were chosen because your field is porous, generous, and able to share signal. And here is the paradoxical gift. The more you live for the collective, the more your personal life thrives, because alignment loves circulation. When you give coherence away, it multiplies back to you. When you hoard it, it stagnates. The universe designed resonance like a breathing lung. Inhale for yourself, exhale for the world. Both motions are required for life. So remember, When resistance hits, when fear spikes, when loneliness whispers that none of this matters, remember this. You are one node in a global flock turning mid-air. Every small act of coherence tilts the entire swarm. Your liberation is not private luxury, it is public infrastructure. Humanity's emergence is leaning on your steadiness more than you know. Stay aligned, the grid is listening, and the world is waiting for the frequency only you can provide. The mind has heard enough, now the body must catch up. Because until your cells feel the truth, the upgrade remains abstract. Embodiment is where possibility becomes inevitability. You don't just think coherence, you carry it, pulse it, radiate it, like heat. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine standing barefoot on black earth after rain. The soil is cool, the air is charged with ozone, every drop glitters like circuitry on the ground. As you inhale, it feels as though the earth itself is exhaling into you, a current moving up through your arches, into calves, thighs, spine. That current is not imagination. It is the same electromagnetic hum that your nervous system is tuned to. Feel how it tingles in your skin. Notice how your breath deepens without you asking. This is the body recognizing signal. Your chest is a chamber. When you focus attention there, the chamber begins to glow. First dim, like coals under ash. Then brighter, like iron heating orange in a forge. Then radiant, a violet gold sphere pressing outward through ribcage and skin. This isn't visualization for comfort. This is field hygiene. The heart emits the strongest electromagnetic signal in your body. When you feel it expand, the coherence you've been cultivating broadcasts several feet beyond you. Others will sense it before you say a word. They may call it charisma, calm, presence, but you know it's physics, the grid moving through flesh. Feel your spine as antenna. Each vertebra a node, each curve a tuning coil. Imagine a current running up from the base, flickering each vertebra awake like a row of street lamps, igniting one by one. By the time it reaches the crown of your head, the current arches upward into the air like a fountain, then cascades down around you in a shower of sparks. Breathe into that image until you sense the crown tingling, a subtle buzz like static in your hair. This is not fantasy. It's your nervous system recognizing the vertical axis. It's always been a living staff of light connecting earth and sky. Notice your hands. They itch slightly, or feel warm, or suddenly heavy. That's energy density accumulating. Flex your fingers slowly. Imagine holding an invisible sphere of pressure between your palms. Push them gently toward each other and you will feel resistance, as if air has thickened into honey. That resistance is your field made tangible. Play with it, shape it, expand it outward, until it feels as though you are carrying a globe of violet neon between your arms. This embodied game teaches your nervous system that energy is not abstract, it's manipulable, malleable, obedient to focus. Even your breath changes under embodiment. Inhale feels less like air, more like liquid light pouring down your throat. Exhale feels less like carbon dioxide, more like radiance streaming outward. Imagine each outbreath painting the space around you with a frequency color, violet, indigo, silver, whatever shade your body naturally chooses. The room fills with your breath print. Anyone walking in would step into a field already curated by your nervous system. That is what embodiment means. Atmosphere bends when you enter. Physical sensations will vary. Some will feel goosebumps racing like electricity across the skin. Others will feel pressure in the forehead, pulsing like a third eye knocking from the inside. Some will feel warmth pooling in the stomach or a buzzing at the soles of the feet. All are correct. All are signals that the quantum upgrade has left the realm of theory and entered tissue. Understand, this is how timelines shift, not by wishing, but by wiring. When the body begins to hum at a new frequency, the environment has no choice but to respond. Relationships organize differently. Opportunities drift closer. Old addictions feel foreign. Time itself changes flavor. This is because embodied coherence alters what physicists call your boundary conditions, the hidden parameters reality uses to compute your experience. By changing the feeling tone of your cells, you change the math of your world. And here's the paradox. The more embodied it becomes, the less effort it requires. A single sigh from your upgraded chest carries more broadcast power than hours of anxious intention from your old self. A single glance infused with coherence ripples further than 1,000 empty affirmations. You discover that the body, once seen as obstacle, is actually your most powerful transmitter. Let yourself notice the difference right now. As you read these words, your posture is shifting, shoulders relaxing, breath slowing, jaw unclenching, a warmth pooling in your palms. That's the transmission embedding itself in your fascia. That's the reminder that you are not trying to think your way into coherence. You are remembering what coherence feels like. Every goosebump, every tingle, every deep breath is confirmation. The upgrade is alive in you, not as idea but as sensation. And the more you embody it, the more the grid recognizes you as a stable node, a transmitter worth amplifying. Stay with the feeling. Let it saturate your muscles, your bones, your breath. Because what you're sensing now is not just energy, it's destiny, clothed in flesh. Coherence made tactile. The future timeline already moving through your body like a song you were born to sing. The sensations you've been cultivating, the tingles, the currents, the weightless glow, are not decorative. They are signals of something deeper. Your DNA is responding. What once sat dormant as biological scaffolding is now listening to instruction from the quantum field. Science names it epigenetics, but mystics have always known it as awakening, the moment when the code written in your bones begins to rewrite itself according to consciousness, not conditioning. DNA is not static text carved into stone. It is a living antenna, coiled light that whispers back to the universe every time you breathe. Each helix is wrapped in biophotons, tiny packets of light that flicker like cosmic Morse code. When you shift your state, those photons change their rhythm. They pulse differently, transmitting new information to your cells, your organs, your timelines. And right now, as you sit inside this transmission, your helix is quivering with fresh instruction. Expand, align, remember. 1. This is why you felt the pressure lately, the heaviness in the chest, the fatigue behind the eyes, the sudden rushes of heat at strange hours. It is the phase transition building. Think of water approaching the boiling point. Molecules vibrate faster, collisions increase, chaos intensifies. To the untrained eye, it looks like disorder, but really it's preparation for transformation. In one moment, water ceases to be liquid and becomes vapor. In one moment, your reality ceases to be repetition and becomes breakthrough. The phase transition has symptoms. Time distortion sharpens, minutes stretch or collapse unpredictably. Memory glitches, you forget what happened yesterday but recall a childhood moment in high-definition clarity. Your body alternates between deep exhaustion and electric restlessness, as though it doesn't know whether to sleep for a century or leap into flight. These are not malfunctions, they are recalibrations. Your nervous system is attempting to stabilize as DNA transmits new frequencies into every cell. This is not just personal biology, it's timeline architecture. Each DNA strand is like a tuning fork, and when it changes frequency, the lattice of reality around you changes with it. This is why opportunities that never existed suddenly appear. This is why old doors slam without warning. This is why people either draw closer in recognition or recoil as if they've touched fire. The phase transition is reorganizing probability space around you. What once seemed impossible is now inevitable. But with inevitability comes pressure. The old identity resists dissolution. It presses on you with urgency, whispering fears, staging last-minute distractions. This is the collapse point where the outdated self tries to pull you back into safe repetition. You may feel like you are standing on the edge of a cliff with gravity pulling both up and down. The tension is excruciating because both versions of you are real. The choice is whether you allow the leap. Here is the truth. Your DNA has already chosen. The field has already updated your template. The leap is less about decision and more about surrender. If you resist, pressure mounts, symptoms worsen, time distorts further. If you surrender, the shift rushes in like a tide breaking a dam. The moment you allow it, you cross into a timeline where coherence is the baseline, where synchronicities arrive daily, where the body heals faster, where relationships align without force. This is why you've been hearing whispers in dreams, feeling nudges at strange hours, catching glimpses of yourself in parallel versions. Future, you has been reaching backward through entanglement, tugging you toward the moment of merger. That tug is stronger now because the merger is imminent. The phase transition is not waiting years. It is pressing in days, weeks, at most. So let the pressure be confirmation. Let the chaos remind you of boiling water, not failing systems. You are not breaking down. You are vaporizing into the next octave of your existence. Every symptom is proof that the timeline is ready to collapse. Every ache is the cocoon straining against the butterfly. Every déjà vu is the seam between versions tearing open. Breathe here. Let your body feel the inevitability. Inhale as if the air itself carries new code. Exhale as if you are releasing centuries of repetition. With each cycle, you are not just surviving pressure, you are dissolving into breakthrough. Because this is the moment. The phase transition is not metaphor anymore. It is physics, biology, destiny, all converging into a single shimmering instant where your DNA ignites, your reality reorganizes, and the grid records a new frequency forever. You have moved through the diagnosis, the upgrade, the assignment, the ritual, the embodiment, and the DNA ignition. Everything in you has been coaxed, calibrated, and cued to become a living instrument of the grid. Now the transmission changes tone, from instruction to commission. This is not a gentle suggestion. It is a summoned task. You are being asked to carry the new frequency into the places where ordinary people still assume reality is solid and unchangeable. Your mission is simple in form and vast in consequence. Live as if the field bends to consciousness because it does. Make coherence your first language, in how you breathe under stress, in how you answer a text from someone trying to pull you back, in how you decide where to spend your attention and money and tenderness. Small gestures accumulate into new architectures. A minute of steady presence with a frightened friend becomes an artery through which courage flows. A calm decision in the face of chaos reroutes local probability channels. Your everyday choices are the scaffolding of a different future. You will be tested. Expect moments where everything conspires to prove that the old story was safer. Expect to be offered shortcuts that glitter but corrode. Expect the temptation to monetize influence before you have truly learned to steward it. When these things arise, return to ritual, ground, boundary, observer, seal, act. Let discipline be your prayer. This is not austerity. It is fidelity to the grid that chose you. You will also be gifted. Doors will open with odd timing. Conversations will feel less like social friction and more like protocol exchanges. You will meet people who, in the span of 3 sentences, recalibrate your plans and accelerate your path. Receive these gifts with humility. Use them to expand the field, not to build an empire of one. Remember that the grid amplifies generosity faster than it amplifies greed. Teach only by example. Speak when it clarifies a pattern for others. Remain silent when speech would fragment coherence. Your life will be the curriculum. People will learn to surrender their small scripts, not because you told them to, but because living near you makes surrender obvious and easier. That is the highest pedagogy, being close enough for others to breathe in the new air. Keep your practices modest and persistent. The architecture of emergence favors slow faithfulness over spectacular swings. 10 minutes of intentional breath every morning, an honest conversation once a week, one measured boundary. These are the bricks. Build them daily. Protect your field by pruning what dulls you, patterns, people, feeds, obligations that require you to trade coherence for attention. The grid rewards clarity. Finally, remember humility. You are not a sovereign savior. You are a steward of a larger intelligence. Your role is to hold a frequency cleanly enough that it can be duplicated and distributed. When you do this, you are participating in an evolutionary event, not merely for your lineage, but for the species. The math of emergence is beautiful. A small, coherent minority subtly re-encodes a culture's default settings. You are now part of that minority. Your fidelity writes new default patterns into the human morphic field. So go forward with steady feet and soft hands. Let your life be a clear instrument. Let your breath be the metronome the grid listens for. Move decisively when windows open. Hold compassion for those who cannot yet hear the transmission. And when you stumble, as you will return quickly to your rituals and your breath and the community that reflects your frequency back to you. This is not a metaphor. This is a literal call to arms of consciousness. The future is not something that happens to you. It is something you and the field co-author together. Stand now in your appointed vibration and let the grid use your presence to reshuffle probabilities in favor of life, dignity, and coherence. If you found this transmission, you are not an accident, you are a pulse in the grid, and the grid is restructuring reality right now.